You're listening to the Fun with Horror podcast with your hosts, Scotty and Andrew.
Hello, all you beautiful friends of horror out there. Welcome to a special bonus episode number 76 of Fun with Horror, your almost weekly movie review podcast. But this week, I am joined by a special guest on a very special day. Today is Friday the 13th, and I am joined by our good friend Stanley, the wonderful, the amazing Stanley of Stanny Boy Reviews on YouTube. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out right now. Follow, like, subscribe, all that. Stanley, hi, how are you?
Yes, hi. So good.
Happy Friday
Wonderful.
the 13th.
Happiest Friday the 13th to you as well, Scotty. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. No, this is I love having you on the show. So
I'm so happy to be here.
So Andrew and I, when we like last year when we have Friday the 13th, we were going to start this thing where we did a commentary of every Friday the 13th movie on Friday the 13th. You know, normally we pick a movie we've never seen, but we figured Friday the 13th is a one special day that we can talk about movies we've seen. And we were going to start going in order. So we started last year. We did a commentary track for Friday the 13th 1. But then when this year rolled around, we were like, you know what? We'll roll a die. We'll roll a 10-sided die and pick a random Friday the 13th movie. And then we were like, maybe we don't do commentaries. Maybe we just talk about the movie like we normally do on our normal episodes. So I rolled a die. And of course, I rolled number 2. So for the moment, we're still going in order. We're going to talk about Friday the 13th, part 2.
Hello?
On a June night in 1980, Friday the 13th, 12 of her friends were murdered. Why should Friday the 13th, 1981 be any different? Friday the 13th, Part 2. The body count continues. 14.
All doomed. You're all doomed.
15.
God.
16.
Help!
17. 18. 19. 20. 21. 22. 23.
Sandra? Jeff?
The day you count on for terror is not over. Friday the 13th, Part 2.
We like that.
We do like that.
It could be part 5.
It could have been, but it was a number 2. I rolled a die and it was 2. So before we start, Andrew and I have briefly discussed this from time to time. Stanley, how do you feel about the Friday the 13th series, and what are your favorite entries in the series and why?
How do I feel about the Friday? Okay, so I prefer other franchises over the Friday the 13th series, but I enjoy it. And mostly because they're they're all okay. Here's what I don't like about the Friday the 13th series first. They're mostly the
Yes.
same movie over and over again. So that's the one thing up until a certain point. They're
Yeah.
basically the
Yeah.
same film. Um, but they're still a lot of fun. I still like them. My favorite out of the series is part 7, The New Blood.
Okay. Why?
Carrie versus Jason, because that's where I think it just took a different turn, like a more interesting direction. They took like different chances, and I think it has the best kills in the series. And I think that's where Jason got really mean. And I think that's where Kane
Ooh.
Hodder was first introduced, and I think that was like the meanest Jason that we got. And I think that's when the special effects really kind of went nuts too.
Okay.
And yeah, and I think that, and then after that one is Jason Goes to Hell, which I think everyone really hates, is Jason Goes to Hell. But that one is the first one I really remember seeing
Okay.
was that one. But
So
I
is that
think
why?
that
Do you
one,
think that's why?
why that one is like a high favorite.
Yeah.
I think so. I think it just left a mark because I think I was 6 or 7 when that one came out, and I remember watching it at a friend's house. And I just remember the girl getting stabbed in the tent and then getting sliced in half with that
Oh.
tent pole.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, being very young and seeing that left quite an impression. And it just has a wild story, and none of it really makes any sense. And then I remember wanting to go back and like learning that there were so many of these movies, and I remember going back and watching all the movies in the subsequent order. And then yeah, at one point none of them just made any sense.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's why I'm more of a Nightmare on Elm Street guy, because those movies from beginning to end kind of like there's
They make complete
cohesion.
sense, right?
I mean, in comparison, yes, I would say so. But really, at the end of the day, I'm a Halloween guy. I really like Halloween. That would probably be my
Right.
favorite series out of the bunch. But
I think for me it's
Jason's,
Nightmare on Elm Street
yeah,
because when I was young, like Halloween scared me, but Nightmare on Elm Street was the one that I was a fanatic about, all those movies.
yeah,
I
dreams
was
are
a
a
I was
different.
Yeah. And Freddy was different. Like Freddy was awesome.
Sure, yeah, he's
But
scary. I think especially in the first three, he was really scary. Even when he was like starting to crack jokes in the third one, those first three films are quite scary.
yeah, especially when you're a kid.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's an image. The Freddy Krueger character is quite an image. And that's another thing, is that Jason's always wearing a mask, so
Yeah.
you don't really know what's behind the mask. And there's not I don't think it's quite as frightening as, and like same with Michael Myers, I guess. He's wearing a mask, but there's something more foreboding about Michael Myers because that character seems more real as
Yes.
opposed to, you know, something that never seems to die, like Jason.
But
Um,
I do think Michael Myers starts to become like that as well because there's a certain point where if you're following the original series of Halloween movies, he also refuses to die and
yeah, you do have a point. But
but
that see,
I think it's fun to explore that. And that's what
yes,
like watching this movie for this podcast, watching Friday the 13th part 2, it was fun to think about the logistics of what was happening and the time frame, and we'll get into it
yeah.
when we talk about the movie. But yeah, like because I don't really give it much thought when I watch these movies, so it's fun to actually try and give it some thought and try and make some sense of it, you know?
Yeah, I was paying attention last night when I was watching it and preparing for this podcast, and I was listening to like how they were breaking it down to like, 2 months after this, 5 years after
Yeah, yeah,
this, and I was
yeah.
like, really? Like, is that the time frame we're gonna stick with, guys? Like, okay. So yeah, no, I know what you mean. It's
What
it's
did you
it's tough.
think of the remake, real quick?
The 2009 remake.
Yeah.
I wish that they wouldn't call it a remake. I wish that they would just call it a sequel because really it's just another sequel. Like
Well,
the first opening credits are the remake, and then the rest of it is a sequel. Like when it comes
Kinda,
down to it, you know what I
kinda.
mean?
No, they
I
kind
think
of remake it.
there's elements of sequel, elements of remake in it, I think. But like there's a lot of part 2 in the
Yeah,
remake. But there's not much of part 1, I don't feel.
just
So it's
the beginning showing
like
like
the
his
credits.
mother dying,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then you have part 2 where he's wearing a sack, and
Yeah.
then you have part 3 where he's finding the mask, and then there's hints of part 4 as well, just hints.
Yeah.
But
There's a, but it's but in as a whole, it's a very messy movie. I loved the deaths. I think the death scenes were a lot of fun. And again, that's Jason being real mean.
yeah,
I thought that he was super aggressive, and I thought that was kind of cool. There's one particular scene in that enormously long opening sequence, um, where there's a character like after that girl has been burned to death in the sleeping bag, and they like find the characters dead in the campground, and that girl is backing up, and he's coming at her with the machete, and then it
yes,
slices into the screen, and then the title sequence happens. That's like the Jason that I like,
me too.
is that scary, like quick. That's a good Jason.
I've told
And
Andrew this, but back in 2014, I purposely watched uh Friday the 13th 1 through 10, and then the remake. I skipped Freddy versus Jason at the time because I was just watching Friday the 13th. And it was such an interesting viewing because there were movies I hadn't seen. Like at that time I had not seen 8, 9, and Jason X.
oh
Um
wow.
and I was rewatching the remake for the second time, I think. And it was just so interesting to watch it that way because like when I finally did get to the remake, all of a sudden to me, Jason was scary. And he wasn't scary in any of the other movies to me at
Okay.
all. Like he was just, it was fun, but he's never been scary to me. But in the remake, like he runs at people. He's
Yeah,
like
that's what I mean.
huge and foreboding. And yeah,
He's a big guy in the remake. And that's what I mean about part 7. Like in part 7, like with Kane Hodder, he is just an entirely different presence. Like, and I think they kind of started getting that with CJ, I think it's CJ Graham in part 6. In part 6, they kind of got the idea that Jason needed to be like a big stalking, like
yeah,
scary figure. And from that point forward, the idea was imprinted. But no, I know what you mean. Like with the remake, it was definitely a different ball game. But I did the same thing. I did a marathon during the pandemic because it had been so long since I seen all the films, especially, and I don't think I had ever watched like a marathon of them. I always do an attempt on Friday the 13th whenever it rolls around. I'll start like part 1, I'll get to like part 4, like halfway through part 4, and then
right.
it's the same movie over and over again. You know what I mean? So I just stop it. But during the pandemic, I did like a 3-day marathon and watched all of them. And it's like the Amityville Horror. Like at the end of it, you're like, what the hell's going on here? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's the same movie, but really none of it is actually a cohesive story.
Well, I'm slowly getting through because I have the Scream Factory Blu-ray box set.
That's
And
what I have too.
you do? It's
Yeah,
so
I love it.
good.
It
It's
looks
so good.
great. That's one of my notes. It looks so pretty. It's such
Yes,
a
they did
pretty,
such a
like
good
this
job.
movie is so pretty. It's a
um,
beautiful film.
well, my whole goal was to watch each movie and then watch all of the special bonus features.
Oh yeah.
Here's the funny thing, and let's start to get into Friday the 13th part 2. And let's also take a moment to warn everybody. I mean, I'm pretty sure most people listening to this have seen Friday the 13th part 2, but if you haven't,
I hope.
we're going to spoil it. We're going to spoil the movie. We're
Hmm.
probably going to spoil the original Friday the 13th as well. So if you haven't seen Friday the 13th, the original movie, if you haven't seen Friday the 13th part 2, this is your moment to pause, go watch them, and then come back and keep listening.
Also, where the hell have you been for the last 40 years?
Yeah, I mean, but you know what? If somebody has not seen these movies, I'm extremely excited for them that they get to watch them for the first time.
Oh yes, it's like Christmas all over again.
It is Christmas. What was I going to say? So Friday the 13th part 2, I remember looking at the bonus features on when I had the disc in and being a little bit sad because there wasn't a commentary, quote unquote. There was not a commentary. But then this past week when I started preparing for this, oh man, I happened to go into the audio settings on the menu.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I see that there's 2 commentary tracks. And I was just like, oh man. And I didn't have time to listen to either one of them.
Yeah, I haven't listened to them either.
I did all the other bonus features. So I think we have probably some of the same notes. But
yeah.
But as always, Stanley, since you're the guest,
no,
it is time for our 3-minute recap, Stanley. And this time you're not prepared. You have no notes.
0.
You're just going to drink your coffee and go for it. So,
all right.
Whenever you're ready,
I'm ready.
Go.
I got you for 3 minutes. 3 minutes of playtime.
Let's just do this. All right. So, Friday the 13th part 2 picks up about 2 months, I believe, after the events of part 1. And we open with Alice, who is the survivor of the original film. And she is recuperating from everything she just experienced. And basically, long story short, she is killed by Jason, who is now a full-grown adult who has somehow found her. And then we cut to a bunch of counselors who are reopening Camp Crystal Lake. Well, a camp that is near Camp Crystal Lake. Basically the same formula as the first film. We have Ginny, who is an assistant to Paul, who is the head camp counselor. And then they have a slew of other counselors beneath them, including Jeff and Sandra and Terry and Mark is in a wheelchair, and there's a whole bunch of them, a lot of whose names we don't even need to know. And there's a dog named Muffin, and
Terry's dog.
So yeah, Terry's dog. That's right. And so they are preparing to reopen this camp or open this camp because again, this is just very close in proximity to Camp Crystal Lake. And Paul warns them that there is a legend around here that, and tells them the events of the first film and what happened, and that there was a boy that drowned and his mother went crazy and killed all the camp counselors years ago. And but it's just a legend. And so we have Crazy Ralph, who I think that's his name, right? It's Ralph.
Yep, Crazy Ralph.
Yeah, Crazy Ralph also shows up at one point or another to warn the counselors that they need to leave because the place is doomed. And Sandra and Jeff at one point decide to break off on their own and go explore Camp Crystal Lake, but they are caught by a cop. And the cop ends up getting killed by Jason because Jason is in fact living in a shack over in the woods near Camp Crystal Lake. And he has a shrine with his dead mother's decapitated head in one of the rooms. And so one night they all decide to go out on the town, the counselors, and a few of them decide to stay back at the camp. And while they're all hanging out, Jason shows up and decides to start butchering everybody systematically. And Jenny and Paul come back, and Jason shows up, and oh God, I'm getting a little frantic. Jason shows up, and him and Jenny have this big showdown, and it's very, very, it's actually really scary. And that's basically it. Jenny and Jason go at it, and Jenny has to put on Jason's mother's sweater and kind of coerce him into thinking that she is his mother, and then she attacks him with a machete, and you think it's over, but then Jason comes back and attacks both her and Paul, and Jenny passes out and wakes up, and Paul's missing, and then she's wheeled off into an ambulance, and then that's the end of the movie.
Yeah. One of the strangest endings ever.
A very strange, confusing ending, because we are left with a lot of unanswered questions. And how we get a part 3, who knows?
Yeah, I'd have to rewatch the beginning of part 3 to remember that. But good
Yeah,
job.
it
Good
doesn't
job.
matter.
It's about 3.5 minutes.
Oh man,
You went into
I
a lot of
lose.
detail when I was
didn't mean to.
I was expecting you to just go, and then Jason comes and kills a bunch of kids, and
I know, I got really excited.
it was so cute. It was so cute.
Oh, thanks.
So, what do you think of Friday the 13th Part 2? Basically, compared to the rest of the movies, what's your feelings about this one?
You know, it's a better film than the first movie. I think it's miles better than part 1, and I really like part 1. But it just looks better. It's better quality. I think the acting is better. I think it has a better story, even though, again, it's the same film. But it's just like it's just, I like that it expands more on the Jason stuff when they didn't really necessarily like have anywhere to go with it, but somehow they found something to do with all the Jason stuff. And I really like Ginny. I think Ginny is probably the best final girl in the entire series.
Yep, I would agree.
And I like that she's smart, and I like that she is self-sufficient, and I like that I think the script is good. I think that that's like something that's really important, is that this particular script isn't stupid. I think that there are other entries in this series that really go off the rails and try to do something different, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but that they're just written in a way to where it doesn't work. And I think that this kind of goes along the lines as like Scream 2, for instance. Scream 2 is a very smart sequel, and it's, you know, some people will argue that it's better than the first one. I wouldn't, but some people would argue that it is. But it like upon watching this again, and I've only seen this one a handful of times. I haven't seen this one as much as I've seen like part 7 or even part 8. I've seen part 8 a whole bunch of times.
Ooh.
And
one of my personal favorites.
And I don't love it, but I'll watch it just for, you know, just like put it on while I'm like folding laundry. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those. But yeah, I really like this movie. Like, this is probably like in the top 3 of the 11 entries that are in this franchise.
Okay. Yeah, I know Andrew could not be with us today, but this is his favorite Friday the 13th.
Rightfully so.
Yeah. And he and I agree on a lot of things about this one. For me personally, kind of a hot take, but the remake is my favorite Friday the 13th of all of them.
I can understand why.
Yeah.
So tell me why, though.
Well, the things I already mentioned, like Jason's actually scary.
Okay.
And I just think it's a good movie. Like, it's ridiculous when it's supposed to be. It's scary when it's supposed to be. But when I look at the base 10 movies, if I exclude the remake, there's 2 that stand out to me, and probably the one I think is the best is part 2.
Okay.
I have a personal, like, just love affair with Jason Takes Manhattan, just because it's so ridiculous. And to me, it's just so much fun to watch. But part 2 is the closest that Jason comes to actually being scary to me.
Agreed.
Within the first 10 movies. I actually, as much as the hockey mask became iconic, I remember for a long time, I didn't like 2 because he didn't have the hockey mask yet. And I love the hockey mask. Everybody does. It's iconic Jason. But then as I grew older, I started to appreciate that the sack with one eye hole in it is actually scarier to me than the hockey mask.
You know what's funny is I didn't notice until watching this last night that there was only one eye hole.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's the quality of this particular DVD, but I literally last night I was like, has there only ever just been one eye hole?
Yeah.
Well, of course. Like, that's the wildest thing. No clue until last night.
And another quick shout out to Scream Factory for releasing, like, these movies look phenomenal. They're not 4K,
Pristine.
but they are 1080p presentations that were transferred from a 4K masters. And
They look good.
yeah, especially like the first two movies are just mind-blowing. And I don't know if you have a 3D TV, but they did
I
Friday
don't.
the 13th Part 3 with the new 3D technology,
Oh, geez.
and it's so freaking cool. Like,
I have a 4K TV, so I wonder if that's why it also looks so good. If
it's
that has
still,
anything to...
it's still gonna look good.
Okay.
But yeah,
Yeah.
Mary and I watched it in 3D a couple years ago, a couple Halloweens ago, and it was just so
Sure.
much fun.
Part 3 is a blast.
So this was directed by Steve Miner.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people, I don't know how many at the time, how many people were disappointed that Sean Cunningham didn't come back and direct this one. But I'm sure you know, Sean Cunningham actually wanted to make this kind of like John Carpenter did with Halloween. He wanted this to be an
Yeah.
anthology series.
Everyone was supposed to be different.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But the studio wanted to continue and make it a franchise. So
Yeah, they
Sean
really wanted
Cunningham
that
did not
Jason
come
thing.
back. He didn't come back. Tom Savini did not come back. But I mean, I love Sean Cunningham, but I'm not going to complain that Steve Miner directed it because Steve Miner did an amazing job.
I think that I think that this is a better film than the first one. So
Yeah.
I think that whatever Steve Miner did here, like he definitely, it's a amplified remake of part one, and it does everything better than part one did. So well done on Steve Miner.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he went on to direct great horror, like more great horror films too. So
yeah. I don't have that prepared, but
I mean, I think just off the top of my head, I know he did Warlock, which was a lot
okay.
of fun, and I know he did H2O. He did Halloween H2O, which a lot of people appreciate now. They might not have 20 years ago, but and he also
Right.
he did part three. He did Friday the 13th part three as well.
Oh man. Oh no, never mind. It was the TV series. I was gonna say he also directed North Shore, but
I don't even know what that is.
there's
Why
a
don't I know what
movie. There's a movie. He directed part 3, Friday the 13th
Yeah.
part 3. He directed House, which is an iconic
God.
horror movie.
House.
He directed Forever Young with Mel Gibson.
Oh, and Jamie Lee Curtis is in that too. That's funny.
Yep, and there you are, Halloween H2O.
Oh yeah.
Lake Placid.
Oh God, with Bridget Fonda? Isn't she in that?
I think it's the one about the giant alligator.
Yeah, with Bill Is it Paxton or Pullman? I think it's Bill Pullman.
I think. Oh, I haven't seen it in so long. I just remember
I
the
saw it in
alligator
theaters. I think I was
coming
like
out of the
13.
water and killing the bear.
Yeah,
Spoilers.
Betty White is in it. Betty
Oh,
White
is she?
has a little cameo.
That's such a good movie. I need to watch that again. But yeah, so he
It says,
directed
I'm
all
rooting
these
for
movies.
the crocodile.
My one complaint, and I asked you before we started this, I asked you if you watched the uncut death scenes.
I did.
So that's my one complaint about this movie, which is not the fault of the movie. It's the fault of the stupid MPAA.
Yeah.
They really, because of like blowback from parents and stuff, they really like clamp down on the gore and special effects in
Which
this
is
movie.
so funny because the first one is a lot gorier. Even in its edited fashion, part one is much bloodier. And this one, it's like right as there's like blood trickling from like, like a slit throat they cut.
Yeah.
And the note I have is the double impalement between Sandra and Jeff. That deleted scene is so good.
Oh my
Like
God.
that special effect is so good, and it's no
Yes.
worse than Kevin Bacon getting the arrow through the neck. Like I
Except
think
it's
it
more
probably has something
realistic.
to do with absolutely, and it probably has something to do with two bodies being on top of each other, and having sex. That
I don't
probably
think so. I think it's more
You don't
just
think so?
I think it's the seeing the spear actually go through the body. Like you see it enter the flesh in the uncut
Yeah,
scene, whereas in the theatrical version, you see him bring the spear down,
and
but
then
then
it
you
hits
just
the
see that,
ground.
yeah, you see it underneath the bed with blood.
Oh, in the deleted scene, you see it like go in, you see it twist like into the like base of
Yeah,
his
yeah,
spine.
yeah.
It's brutal. It's brutal, but it's
All of
good.
them are
All
so
those
much better.
scenes are
Like, I
so
mean,
good.
there's a couple that are just like okay, but most
Yeah,
of the
there's some that
most
you
of those
can't tell the
deaths,
difference.
yeah, yeah. Um, but man, I really wish that because I think the obviously you saw the scenes, they're not good quality.
No, I think they
I
were transferred from like a VHS or something of the special
Yeah,
effects guy. Yeah.
I wish they could have transferred them from really nice looking masters so that they could cut them back into the movie and make the movie
You know,
better.
they did that with Silent Night, Deadly Night when they
They
originally,
did, and it does not
yeah,
look good.
it does not look good at all. And I wonder, I mean, I'm sure they've done like a Blu-ray release of that since then. I think Shout Factory
Oh,
or Scream, whatever. I think that they've
you're
released that since
correct.
then. So I wonder, and I haven't seen it. I don't own that particular copy. I have like an old DVD that's uncut, but the quality is so awful.
We did Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 Christmases ago. And I believe when I was watching it, I watched it on iTunes. And then afterwards, I found out that Scream Factory had their own edition of it. And I was like,
Yeah,
oh, damn it. I should have watched that because it looks so much better. And
I
I
imagine
think
so.
those scenes you can still tell that the masters are different, but the scenes look a lot better than the version I have. So
I would hope so because they do really good transfers. They
yeah.
really
Oh my,
take care
they're
of.
so good. But yeah,
Yeah,
I wish they could have done that for Friday the 13th part two.
yeah, me too.
Because I mean, right at the beginning, when Jason, so Alice is home and she goes
Oh yes.
the whole like there's the opening is long, man.
The opening is very misleading. Like they didn't even like honestly, there was no point in the opening. They really didn't even need to bring Alice back, in my opinion. There was no, they really
I
didn't
think
even need it.
I think it started the trope of bringing back the main character from the previous movie only to kill them in the opening scene,
Yeah,
which has been
yeah,
done in
it
so many
probably
horror movies
did.
since.
I have an autographed bottle of wine from her. She has
Oh,
a winery in Oregon, and where I'm from, and I it's like a Crystal Lake blood red Pinot Noir or something, and it has her autograph on it. My
that's
friend Bill
so
gave me.
nice.
Yeah, but anyway, I think you're going to go into how they stab her in the
Yeah,
face, and then she turns towards the camera,
and it
and
comes out
then
of her
there's
nose like
yeah,
it's so gruesome and so much
yeah. Would
better.
that have killed her? Would that have actually killed her though?
Yes, I'm gonna say
You
yes.
think so? Okay, yeah, it probably would have, huh? Oh,
I
because I
don't
guess
know.
he stabs her like in the, it's like in the temple, huh? Like he like gets her in the temple, and then it goes through like the side of her face. I don't know.
I mean, well, we can always say that Alice is still alive somewhere.
Alice is still alive.
She's got like damage to her face now.
Yeah, now she's just half paralyzed. God.
um I so the other thing that's I think is an improvement on the first one, Harry Manfredini, who has
Oh,
composed lots of Friday the 13th scores, almost all of them. He came back and I really think he improved his score from the first one.
miles better, I think.
Like more than anything, I often feel like these scores sound very similar, like all the Friday the 13th movies, you know.
Unless it's part three.
Unless it's part three and unless it's part eight, because Manfredini did not do part eight.
Touche.
Uh, but watching this movie and paying close attention to the score, I was starting to notice how advanced the score is from the first one.
Yeah.
And I really love it. I'm in fact, I just got 1, 2, and 3 from Waxwork Records just a couple weeks
Oh,
ago because they put them on
yes.
sale last year on Friday the 13th and they finally got shipped out. So yeah,
Oh, I bet they sound great.
I don't need every single Friday the 13th, but I needed 1, 2, and 3, and I have part 8 as well. So I'm happy
No,
now.
those are the only ones you need.
But yeah, I really liked his score.
I agree.
Um So Ralph comes back, Crazy Ralph.
Yeah.
And if you don't count Alice in the beginning, he's actually the first of the new deaths, isn't he? He's the first kill, right?
I think he is the first kill after Alice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gets the barbed wire around his neck, which is
Which,
also another edited kill. Like it's not
yeah,
as edited, but it's pretty graphic, I think, in the deleted scene. There's more blood.
so much better.
Yeah.
I remember being surprised when I rewatched this. I totally forgot Ralph died in this one.
There's a lot that I blocked out, I think,
Yeah.
from this movie, because there's a lot when I was watching it to where I jumped maybe 4 or 5 times in this film, and I don't jump in these movies. These movies aren't particularly scary anymore, especially as a full grown ass man. But there was like 4 or 5 times, maybe even 6 times, where I literally jolted, and both of my dogs were in my lap, and they both just like looked at me, and I was like, "I'm so sorry, you guys." And I had my coffee in my hand at one point, and I ended up doing this, and like it spilled all over my shirt, and I was like, Jesus Christ, what is happening right now? Like this is so wild.
That's amazing.
And
I love
yeah, and that was one of them, is when Ralph got the barbed wire around his neck. That scared the hell out of me. Like I
it.
didn't
Was the other
expect
one
it.
Jason through the window?
Oh yes, it was.
Yeah.
Oh yes,
Not,
it
and I
was.
don't mean the last one at the end of the movie. There's like the part where he's kind of stalking Jenny, and I think he
Where
like,
Jenny has her hand on the door and she's holding it,
yes.
and then she's about, oh God, man, yes,
Yeah,
it was. That's one that I
that
was
was a good
talking
one.
about. Yeah, but the one at the end also, like those two both got me good.
So another thing we were talking about, and this movie, see, okay, so to me, this movie kind of does it well. Um, I get anxiety every time a horror movie opens up and somebody has a pet, like a pet dog
Yeah,
or a pet cat.
yeah,
I get anxiety. I'm wondering if the writers are going to kill that animal. And
yeah.
I actually, because the mangled, okay, so when, who is it that go walking off?
Sandra and Jeff.
Sandra and Jeff, yeah. Also, we'll talk a little bit about how sexually charged this movie was compared
Oh
to
yeah,
for the first one.
oh
My
yeah.
God. But yeah, when they go try to visit Crystal Lake, Camp Crystal Lake, um, they come across the mangled remains of an animal. And as an audience member, I still don't know what it was supposed to be.
It was Muffin. That was clearly Muffin. Like
It was
I don't
supposed to
care
be
what
Muffin,
anybody says. That was Muffin. That was a
but
fake
Muffin
out.
comes back at the end. Muffin is
Exactly.
alive. So it wasn't Muffin. So
That was reshoots.
you
The
think it
ending
was
was
reshoots?
reshoots. I swear to God, because that
Oh,
dog that they find is Muffin. I promise. There's no other way. That's like that dog had like a bow. Like I like looked, and that's why I was like, even in my notes, I was like, Muffin died. Like what?
there
I
was
I
even a
don't
bow?
remember Muffin. I swear there was a bow. I might have been hallucinating. I might have just
No.
wanted it to be Muffin. I don't know.
See, I'm unprepared. We should have listened to the commentaries. Maybe they say something,
Maybe
but the
so. Oh, then
commentaries
my
are
bad.
mostly the actors. Like it's not
Is
Steve
it?
Miner or anybody. Yeah.
Oh, and the
Um,
actors don't know that stuff.
one one uh one commentary is Amy Steele and I think the guys who did the book Crystal Lake Memories
Okay.
and the director of the documentary, I think they both talked to her.
Okay. Cool.
And then the other commentary is all the other like counselor actors.
Cool.
But that's
Okay.
it. Like it's not any of the actual writers or anything. So
Yeah, and they probably had no idea that that was even in the movie.
yeah, right. In fact, let me look because there's something I don't know. Steve Miner is evidently still alive, so
He's got to be like in his 70s, like
yeah.
like early to mid 70s, I think. I
But
think he's
yeah,
a
so
Gemini too.
I don't like animal deaths in pet deaths to be more
Mm-mm.
exact. But I think this one was unrealistic enough that I was like, and we didn't see, but we do see poor Muffin go up to Jason's foot.
And see, that's why I was convinced that it was Muffin, because you see she approaches him and then it cuts away, and then moments later you see this mangled Muffin looking dog And then even Sandra and Jeff are like, "Are we gonna tell Terry? Are we gonna tell her what we
Yeah,
found?" And they're like, "Nope, we ain't saying nothing." And I'm like, "You guys are a piece of shit. Like, why aren't you gonna tell me you just found her dead dog so she
we
stops
ain't saying
looking?"
nothing about Muffin.
Yeah, no. Dick.
Dude, I wonder, like, that's really good of you. I wonder if it's a reshoot because I wonder if audiences, like test audience, was like, why'd you kill the dog? And they're like, oh, okay, let's put in this little scene where the dog comes back,
Yeah,
even
and
though
I
it
think
makes
that
no
that like
sense.
adds for like an additional scare too, because they just wanted like to have that one last scare
Yeah,
with a scary looking, mangled looking Jason, because we don't see what Jason looks like at the end when Paul and Ginny are looking at him after they remove the sock. They both just kind of look at him and they like have like, a grossed out look on their face, but we don't
right.
see him. And
Until he
then I
bursts through
think
the window.
yeah, and I think that's where it was supposed to leave it. I really feel that that's where they were going to leave it, and then that was the end of it. And then that last scene happens. So
Yeah, the ending is weird. So we'll talk about that.
yeah,
So yeah, this movie, I didn't realize it until watching it this time. Yeah, it was a very sexually charged movie.
it's a horny movie.
In the first movie, I think we just have Kevin Bacon and his girlfriend.
Yeah,
Everybody else is like just kind of whatever. Like there's slight flirtations, but nothing overt. But then in this one, you have you have Jeff and Sandra, and none of the girls wear bras.
none.
So
And I think Sandra was underage when this movie was made.
really,
There was like a big thing about that, yeah, because she was only 17
oh
when this
boy,
film was made, and there was like a controversy about that
yeah,
afterward. But
that's not
anyway,
good.
go on.
No,
Yeah,
that's good to know.
yeah,
These movies are controversial. The first movie killed a
yeah,
live snake.
yeah. That's true. That
um,
is true.
so then you have Terry, who comes in, and she's famously got that halter top,
Yeah.
with obviously no bra, and then she's flirting. Who's the guy she's flirting with?
Was it Scott?
Scott? Yeah, Scott. Of
Yeah.
course it is. Scott, played by Russell Todd. Terry was played by Kirsten Baker. And then since we already mentioned them, Jeff was played by Bill Randolph, and Sandra was played by Marta Kober.
Yeah.
So, and then, as if that's not enough, okay, then you have Ginny and Paul.
Paul.
Ginny and Paul. They're already an item. They're not just
Yeah.
flirting. It seems like they've got a relationship going on. And then you've got Mark in the wheelchair and Vicky. Mark and
Yeah.
Vicky. And Vicky, I actually, that one may be my favorite because Mark is obviously a very good looking guy.
Yeah.
But he's in a wheelchair. And I love the fact that Vicky just immediately is like, I want this guy. He's in a
Yeah,
wheelchair.
she loves him.
Yeah.
She's straight up asking if everything works. She's like, your legs don't work, but does it work? And he's like, yeah, it does.
And
Like,
then yeah, they totally plan on like sleeping together, and she goes back to her cabin to get ready. And
what I love is that she takes off a pair of ugly underwear and then puts on a pair of uglier underwear to go have sex with
yeah.
this guy. I
And
thought that was pretty
she
funny.
does the whole spraying perfume inside her panties.
Oh yeah. Like she has a pretty strange method of preparing for sexual intercourse.
Yes. I think I did that once when I was very young, and I was like, I'm never doing this again. That burned.
Yeah, she likes him.
But then they never get to do anything because he gets the axe to the head. And
Yeah,
one of the
I
most,
think that's the most brutal deaths in the film.
yeah, and one of the most
Yeah.
iconic deaths in all the Friday the 13th movies.
Yeah,
think.
I think so too. Yeah.
Like
Watching him go down the
when you think of all the different deaths in every movie, there's certain deaths that are just memorable, like that one, Kevin Bacon, with the arrow through the neck, the sleeping bag bashing against the tree, of
in part
course.
7. Yeah.
Is that part 7?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then
where he picks her up and smashes her.
part 9, Jason Goes to Hell, the one you talked about with
Oh yeah, the
slashing.
tin pole with the. Oh yeah, that one's. Oof, that was a good one.
So yeah, Mark with the machete in the face, that was really good. But yeah, what did you? I mean, I don't know what. It's not really deep. It's nothing deep to talk about. But I mean, did you notice when you were watching it that this was a more sexually charged Friday the
Oh
13th?
yeah, like this is like I said, it's a very horny movie. Like from the very beginning, like the shorts got shorter, like the shorts were
Yes.
shorter. Everybody, even
The
like the
the
guys
girls'
said,
shorts got shorter.
this is true, yeah. And
The guys'
everybody's just
shorts
like,
in the first movie were like super short. Kevin Bacon's
you're
shorts
right,
were
yeah,
so short.
like Speedos.
Yeah.
But like it's just sex eyes. Like everybody is just sex eyes like the entire time. And then the moment that like half the counselors go off into the town to go like have a fun night, like it's like all the remaining campers are just there to hook up, and that
Yeah.
wasn't there in the first film. So the sex and the blood were both really amped up in this one. I think
And then
that's
even dorky Ted, when he goes into town, he's like flirting with the bartender.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so that's the other thing, like jumping from the sexually charged tension in the movie to another thing that every time I rewatch this movie, it always kind of takes me by surprise is that, yeah, a lot of the counselors leave and go into town to go drinking. And
And
all
they
of a
never come
sudden,
back.
yeah, a bunch of them just don't come back.
That was a note of mine too. Where did the rest of the counselors go?
And why don't they
And
ever show back up? Like Ted stays there. We don't ever see Ted the rest of the movie, right?
no. Yeah,
Yeah.
and this is a short movie. This movie is actually not very long. Like
No,
I kind of
I
thought
think
about
it's
that
an hour
too.
and 26.
Yeah, yeah. This is H2O. Like this is
Was H2O short too?
85 minutes.
I think Friday the 13th one is also short.
Yeah, these are not
Um,
very long, but there's also not a lot to these movies when it
no,
comes down to it. Like
no.
it's bang, bang, bang. We're done.
Like all they're there is for Jason to kill counselors,
Yeah,
and you
exactly.
can tell when they pad the movie out.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Um,
Jason walking through the woods, Jason peering through a bush,
yeah.
a girl in underwear going to a car to find a hairbrush. Like they're reaching.
Oh my God, the hairbrush. Yeah,
Yeah, that was
yeah.
something I forgot about too. I was like, what is she going to this car for? And then she pulls out of hair. I thought she was looking for condoms, but why would there be safe sex in the early 80s in a horror film? And then she pulls out a hairbrush. And I was like, Jesus, really? Like
It was
that's
a
what we're looking
brush,
for? Yeah.
and it was just purely for tension.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So
I guess we can
yeah.
call it that.
So Crazy Ralph. The only other note I have is one thing I never noticed, I don't think, until this movie. And again, like you said, it may be because of the beautiful quality of these Blu-rays, is that he doesn't just get strangled, he gets strangled with barbed wire.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's brutal.
That's not cute. Yeah. It was, and that's graphic. And again, in the deleted scene, much more so. But and that's another thing that I didn't remember either is later on when Ginny opens up one of the closets, his corpse is the one that falls
Yes.
out. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, yeah. He's
Totally
there.
forgot about that. Did you know that and this is just random, and I didn't know this until today when I was kind of like just looking stuff up, that he is the narrator in part 7?
No.
That's his final film role. He wasn't in a lot of
Oh.
movies, but he was the narrator in part 7. He was like 91 when he died. He lived to be like 91 years old.
Well, now I'm really
He's
looking
born.
forward to rewatching 7. And also
Yeah, like
because you said it was your favorite.
yeah, I love part 7. A lot of people don't like it. It's actually one of the most like disliked entries in the franchise, just like
Yeah,
part 8
I
is.
didn't like it. When I did my full marathon, I didn't care for 7. But
There's a lot to not like, but there's so much to like.
yeah. Well, whenever
Yeah.
somebody tells me that they really like a movie, it kind of paints the movie in a different light for me. So like I get to
Yeah.
watch it knowing that at least somebody that I know and care about really, really likes this movie. So
Yeah.
that changes things for me.
It's a blast, man. That's a comfort film. I used to watch it a lot, like on HBO when I was a kid. Like it just come on really late at night, and I'd be like, oh man, like it's just one of those scary movies. And it used to scare me. It was like one of those movies that used to scare me.
Yeah.
Not now, but it's a lot of fun.
Now, the question that I have about Friday the 13th Part 2 is, so as you said, the intro to the movie where Jason kills Alice, that's only like a couple months after Friday the 13th 1.
I think it's technically supposed to be 2 or 3 months afterward.
Yeah.
Like she says it at the beginning. She says, "Oh, like I know you haven't heard from me in a few months, and I'm just trying to." I think she says something like that to that effect, or I might be Mandela affecting that. I might have read that too. That it was a couple of months, but I feel like that she says that, and she's like, I had to do this to get my life back in order. Like I know that you don't like. She's arguing with her mom, and she says something like that.
And how do you think Jason found out where she lives?
That was a question I had. And how the hell did he like? He's just walking around with his mom's head. Like I'm gonna put this in the fridge. Like
right?
How did he find her?
And then so
Like,
we gotta imagine he killed Alice, and then he took his mom's head back out of the fridge. Like he's like, I'm gonna jump scare her. You know?
Yeah.
And then
But
he takes his mom's head back
window.
out and takes it back to camp again. And it's like, okay, so
Yeah.
where is camp compared to where Alice lives? That's the other question. We don't know that.
But he gets there and back. And if I was Alice, I would not be living anywhere near this camp. I'd be as far away as humanly possible. And according to this film, Camp Crystal Lake is a hop, jump, skipping away. Because this guy's walking around with a sack on his head with a decapitated head, like a really old decapitated head.
Yeah.
Just freely, like on the sidewalks, like walking past little kids who are jumping around in mud puddles.
Oh, right. Yeah,
like,
yeah.
At night, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
where did he
like,
have the head at that point?
Like in a backpack? Like maybe in the sack that was, that he put on his head later?
And are we overthinking this movie?
We are. Like this is where we have to suspend our
fun.
belief a little bit. Yeah. But I did these are notes that I took, man.
Yeah,
like these are actual notes that I took. Like what and also like the dream that she's having. Like I love that the entire dream sequence that she has is the recap of the first film.
Yeah.
And the part that she wakes up at is when like she's like wailing the entire dream, like she's like no like the entire dream sequence. And the part that she wakes up at is when she says, "But what about the boy? He's still out there." Like when it's mellow, the most mellow part of the dream, and then she shoots up in the bed like ah, ah. I'm like,
yeah,
that's the part you're gonna wake up at. Like you're not gonna wake up after you've chopped her head off. You're not gonna wake up like during that like brawling fight that you just had. You're gonna wake up at the most mellow part of that dream. My note is people have dreams like this. Like this is how we react to dreams. But anyway, yeah. We wouldn't have a movie.
Well, she does wake up. So, but then okay, so the rest of the movie takes place 5 years after that. So can we?
Is that what happened, or is it?
Yeah.
It's two. I thought
it's
that
5 years after the events of Friday the 13th Part 1.
Okay.
They specifically say that.
I thought that it was 2 months. I thought that it opened 2 months after the events of Part 1. Oh my God. Okay. Now it all makes a little bit more sense.
Well, kinda.
Okay. No, it doesn't. You're right. But
yeah, when they're at the campfire at the beginning and he's telling the legend of Jason, he's like 5 years ago, Jason saw his mother killed. So
right. Okay.
Yeah, so this is the bulk of the movie takes place 5 years after Friday the 13th Part 1. So there's one of two options, and I think we know which one is the real one. The unrealistic option is that Jason grew up really fast, and he's still really young, but he's just big. But the other option is that obviously Jason coming out of the lake and dragging Alice into the lake was all a dream. Like she dreamed that.
Which is more than likely the case.
Yeah.
She probably was just hallucinating all that.
Because the cops didn't see this little kid she keeps.
Yeah, and they say that too. Like, we didn't find no boy.
Yeah, we didn't find
no boy. And clearly he lived, like he did not drown.
And he's big, and he's a big guy now. So
yeah.
Obviously, yeah. Plus, I mean, it doesn't make sense in Friday the 13th Part 1 either, because he drowned as a boy.
Yeah.
And this is Friday the 13th is late. Yeah.
and just got out of the water and then went and hid in the bushes for the
Exactly.
next 20 years.
And yeah, he's not a boy. He would not be a boy at the end of Friday the
No.
13th Part 1. So yeah, it's a
No.
dream. It's a dream. So Jason kills all these people. Let's real quickly recap the different deaths. We got Crazy Ralph. We talked about that. The cop that sees Jeff and Sandra, he finds Jason's shack.
Yeah.
In the woods, which I love the shack. The shack is creepy as hell.
I think the shack is pretty effective.
And I like the fact that the cop actually opens a door in the shack and we don't see it yet, but he sees Pamela's head there.
Yeah, I liked that too.
And then Jason comes up and hits him in the back of the head with a hammer.
Another death that was a little bit more
What
graphic.
are you doing? Are you peeing right now? Is that
No,
noise?
not at
Are
all. What? Peeing?
I hear water.
Oh no, my dog was drinking water from the dish. You're so funny. I would just get up and go pee.
or pee into your mug while we're recording.
In my coffee mug?
Maybe. Who knows? Maybe you had to go really bad.
And then drink it.
People can't see that.
I'm fucking dead
Only
right now.
we can see that. I love your Friday the 13th mug, by the way, that nobody else can see.
This was a gift. I'm glad that you actually mentioned it. This is a gift from my friend Ashley. I'm glad that you mentioned it.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's one of my favorite things in the world. Thank you. I like it a lot too.
Let's see. Who do we got? After the cop, I think it's this was interesting. Before I keep going with the kills, did you notice that when Naked Terry is in the water, when her clothes get taken, it's Scott, but we don't know this yet. Her clothes get taken as she's in the water and she starts looking at the shore. Harry Manfredini threw in a little bit of hint of Jaws.
I did, yes. I did. I noticed that as well.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Who did the Jaws theme?
John Williams.
Of course. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I should have known that.
But yeah, so she comes out and I mean, butt naked. So
which I wanted to know, why did she decide to go skinny dipping?
Why not?
I mean, also great answer. but why? Like, she's like, I'm gonna go for a walk, and then she's like, and I'm also gonna go skinny dipping.
I honestly, even though she's not one of the ones that had sex, I feel like she was maybe the most sexually charged of all of them. Like, she was just barely had clothes on.
She had a body.
Yeah, she did. She's in my opinion the most attractive of all the girls in this.
Yeah, she definitely had a body. I was surprised by the full frontal nudity in this. Like, yes. I didn't expect it. I didn't expect like actual full frontal nudity.
And she's not super shy. Like, when she comes out, she gets her clothes and she's holding them, but she's only covering her top. Scott's standing right in front of her, so she's full bottom.
Yeah, that was wild.
Scott. But I think she also kind of has the hots for Scott as well. She's just teasing him.
Yeah.
Because Scott's kind of a douchebag.
Eyes at each other the entire time. It was terrible. Yeah.
He's a douchebag, but he wasn't a bad looking guy.
No, he had beautiful eyes.
Yeah, he had those pretty eyes.
Really beautiful blue eyes.
I do hate that the one guy that has my name is the douchebag in the movie. But then, okay, so Scott gets slung up in the rope trap. And then Terry goes to get something to get him down.
Yeah, like a knife.
But yeah, then Jason. See, this was a better kill as well in the uncut version.
Because that's what I mean. Like, right as the knife is like touching the throat, like right as blood starts happening, they cut.
Yeah, and you just see Jason like go, and that's it.
Yeah.
But in the uncut version, you see some more blood.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
it's good. Terry comes out and finds him, and I think Terry had the lamest death of the whole movie.
You don't see it.
You don't see
right?
it. She turns Scott around. She sees him dead. She's screaming, and she turns around towards the camera, and the camera is basically Jason's point of view.
But she has a great scream.
She does have a great scream.
She has a great scream. Yeah.
Great scream. Terrible death.
Terrible death.
Who else we got? Okay, then Mark. Mark is the next one. And
Best
yeah,
death in the movie.
Mark's just so brutal because first of all, the special effect is amazing. The machete in the face.
Yeah.
And then the poor guy, his wheelchair just tumbles down all those
It's
steps.
terrible. And it's sad because he's in a wheelchair.
Yeah, but his penis still works. So
His penis does still work.
it's
So we
only
can't feel
partly
that
sad.
bad for him. Yeah. It's only half sad. His legs might not work.
Then we have Jeff on top of Sandra after sex. And Jason, we've already talked about that spear going through them and how
Yeah.
much better the uncut version is. Vicky, I think Vicky's next after she's all spruced up and gotten ready for sex with Mark.
Yeah.
She comes in and this is one of my favorite moments of the movie because she comes up to the bed. She thinks they're in the bed.
This part scared me.
Jason sits up.
Yeah.
That's
That
a
part scared
great
me.
iconic moment. I love that
Yeah.
moment.
I don't remember him being in the bed. I thought it was reversed. I thought he was behind the door and then she found both bodies in the bed, but it was reversed. And it was
Right.
Jeff behind the door, Halloween style.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he slashes her leg, which
Which I don't remember either.
I was gonna say, like, I really like this kill. Like, I'm sitting here watching this scene, I'm thinking, oh, I like this kill. Because he slashes her leg, and it's like, oh, it's painful. But then he stabs her in the stomach, and you don't see anything. You just see her face.
She just gets that blood capsule. She like bites out of the blood capsule, and there's like a little bit of blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the end of Vicky. And that's basic. I think that's all the deaths of all the kids that we see, because Jason, like, then the whole like cat and mouse game between Jenny and Jason starts, and Paul becomes part of
so
that.
good. Yeah.
And Jason and Paul wrestle, and Jenny thinks Paul is dead, but he's not. And then she runs off, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, the iconic moment, she gets to Jason's, one of my favorite shots in the movie. This is why this movie is scarier than others. What do you think of that amazing shot? And I'm just leading the witness here. She goes into the shack, and the camera's like showing her as she walks in, but you see out the window of the shack and you see Jason running up. Do you remember that shot?
It's so good. Yes, it's wonderful.
Dude,
yes.
What a good shot.
It's really good. Yeah, that whole sequence up until that whole entire chase sequence is so good. Like that,
Yeah.
all of that, it's long, which is funny because like stuff like that can get very tedious very quickly. But that's very tense and it's very nice. But once she gets into that shack, like, ooh, it's so good. Yeah, no,
and of course
I
she
agree.
puts on Mother's sweater.
Yeah,
and she tricks Jason for a moment until he sees Mother's head behind her, and then realizes, this girl's tricking me. The other thing
hear? Oh, go ahead.
No, please. What?
No. I was just gonna say, did you hear that she had given off in an interview that I heard once? The part where she's under the bed and the rat comes, and then you see clearly that there's pee coming from under the bed, or like under the bed, and you know what I'm talking about? Did you catch this?
I think so.
There's
Did she pee
coming out, but so she says that it was. If I'm getting this right, she says that it was supposed to be her peeing. But then later on, it was that people think that it might have been the rat that was peeing, but it's been like debatable for like people who are watching the movie. It could have been her, or it could have been the rat, but that producers wanted there to be a scene with her under a bed and pee involved, and they didn't care how it was filmed, and they just wanted to see a girl in peril with pee. And it was like, you need to listen to this interview, and
I need to go back and watch that scene again too.
Yeah,
I forgot about
clearly the yellow liquid coming out. Like, she's horrified. The rat comes. She's more horrified, and then it shows like just like the foot of the bed and just like yellow liquid coming out. Like,
I think when I watched it this past weekend, I think I may have looked away to take a note about the rat and missed the whole pee thing. So
yeah, it's wild.
Wow. Wow. Okay. The other thing I forgot was that there are dead bodies in the shack next to
Yeah.
Mother's table.
I
The
think it's
cop,
Terry and Scott.
Terry, and the
Oh, is
cop.
it the cop?
Yeah, it's the
Okay,
cop.
yeah.
Scott's probably still like strung up against a tree,
You're right,
hanging
yeah.
from a tree. But yeah, poor Jenny. She's like in the shack now.
Yeah.
Um. So okay, yeah. So, Paul comes in, machete into the shoulder of Jason, and they think he's dead, so they leave, and then they go back, and this is where. Yeah, how does this happen? Oh, Paul thinks that there's something that he hears something at the door, right?
Yeah, they're like prepared
Yeah,
to take on whatever comes. Like she's on the bed and she has half
with
the
the
pitchfork
pitchfork, which is
and
an
like she's like
amazing, like that's
ready
an
for it.
iconic shot. That's a
Yeah,
iconic promo shot of the movie is her holding the
yeah.
pitchfork.
She's ready for it.
But then, okay, yeah. So then he opens the door and it's Muffin.
Yeah.
And we've talked about Muffin.
I was blown away by this.
This is where the movie, I don't understand it at all. Because, and I even, there's an alternate ending. Did you read about the alternate ending or see anything about that in the bonus features?
It's vaguely coming back to me.
Because
Something about you go ahead, yeah.
Jason bursts through the window.
Right.
And it's a big slow motion shot, and then it kind of fades to white or black. I forget which color it fades to, and then in the movie, we see her being loaded onto an ambulance stretcher and onto an ambulance.
Right.
And then it cuts to the final shot is Jason's mother's head. And then the credits start rolling, right?
Yeah.
So I guess in a different ending, they actually had the mother's eyes open.
I heard this, yes.
Which was supposed to signify that Jason had killed Paul for some reason.
How?
I don't know. Maybe because he put Paul's head there. I don't know.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know, but I love the ending. I don't like the nonsensical thing. Like, how did Jason, like, he burst through the window, then how is she? It's just a copy of the first movie, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then it makes no sense. Like, how did she live? I don't know.
I don't understand how she lived either. And I kind of want to know what happened to Paul as well. I know that there was a draft for part 3 that was written, and it involved her character, and she like goes off to like a college or something like that, and we find out what happens to Paul. Like she finds Paul's head in like a washing machine or something like that.
Oh, wow.
In like the first
Wow.
like 10 or 15 pages. Yeah. But she
Okay.
declined the sequel. And so they completely rewrote the draft.
Okay.
Excuse me. But yeah, so I think there were answers to what happened to Paul in a different draft that was floating around. I think that there is a draft floating around somewhere. I think that it's there like on the internet.
Okay.
But yeah.
Quick aside. I'm very impressed by your muting skills. Like
I'm coughing. I'm sorry.
You're coughing, but I cough too, but I just end up just putting my head away from my mic when I should probably just hit the mute button like you're doing. That's amazing.
Yeah, like I'm quick.
That's so many skills you have. Yeah, I do like the end of this movie though. I like the end. I think the final image of Mom's head, of Pamela's head, is just very, it's just creepy. It kind of reminds me of, well, I don't want to say because I don't want to spoil any other movies, but there's other movies that close on a very creepy image like that. And if you can read my lips.
Yes.
Okay, you got it. So I'm not going to say it out loud because I don't want to spoil movies for people, but yeah.
I served someone from that film last night at my job.
Oh, wow.
Not the original.
The remake.
Another. Yeah.
Very nice.
Which is funny.
Very nice.
Funny you say that. Yeah.
So that's Friday the 13th part 2. So there you go. Stanley.
Uh-oh.
That's the end
Did
of the
you
movie.
freeze?
Oh, did I freeze?
There you are. Okay.
I think you froze.
Sorry, you froze a little bit. No, I'm back.
Oh.
Hello.
Oh, yeah, my internet connection
There
is
you are.
unstable,
Sorry.
so we're okay. We're okay now.
Okay, cool.
We're okay.
I'm also unstable. We're good.
All right. This may be another Price is Right sound effect moment.
We like that. We like that a lot.
So let's real quickly. I think we know all the answers to these questions, but we always do the 3 questions here at Fun with Horror.
Yeah.
So Stanley, I'm going to start you off.
Who would cross the bridge of death must answer me these questions 3.
Question number 1. What was your favorite kill or death in Friday the 13th, part 2?
My favorite kill or death. My favorite kill is definitely Mark in the wheelchair.
Yes.
And yeah, that's my favorite death as well. That's the same thing. Yeah.
I
That
agree
would
with
be-
you. I think that's not
yeah.
a big surprise. Number
Yeah.
2, did you think Friday the 13th part 2 is scary?
I did.
You did.
Yeah. There was a lot of, and maybe it was, is there a difference between jump scare and scary? Yeah, there is, I guess. But there were moments where, especially once the whole chase sequence started with Jenny, there were a few times where and maybe it's just because I just forgot.
Yeah.
But I was kind of like doing like the whole like, oh man, like when she got in the car,
Wow.
like with the pitchfork and the roof, like there were some things that I just forgot about. And
That's awesome.
yeah, so there was a few moments where I was like, oh shit. Like
Did
yeah,
it
so
stick with you
I
afterwards?
it did.
Okay.
I thought I'm still thinking about it. And like
You were
just
a
the
little
look on
creeped
her
out?
face, and it was creepy. It was filmed
Okay.
very well. And like, and there's an ambulance driving right by.
Hi,
I'm so sorry
ambulance.
if that's loud. Yeah, hey guys. But like, and then like I think about movies that I've seen since then and how that scene was used in so many other movies.
Yeah.
And like in Scream 2 and it just in other, like so many other movies. And yeah, so yes, to answer your question, I thought it was scary. I think out of a lot of other horror sequels, like in general, like this is a really pretty scary film.
I think for me, it's not really that scary to me, but I can see how it is probably the scariest of the original 10.
Yes. Maybe
So-
that's what. Maybe I'll.
But that's okay.
reiterate
No,
on that.
I like
Yeah.
your answer already. So
Yeah,
you don't have
I'm
to
not
change
gonna
it.
have nightmares. You know. What
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
Let's say that. Yeah.
And then final question, did you have fun with horror?
I did.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
did. I absolutely did. Yeah, this
That's
was a
the
fun
thing.
movie to talk about.
I think most of these movies, because I'm kind of with you, it's not my favorite series. When you think about like the big iconic slashers like Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Chucky. I think it's maybe my least favorite of all those series, even though I do love this series. But every movie is fun to watch in its own way.
Yeah, I find
So-
redeeming qualities about each entry. Like, so I know what you're saying.
Yeah. So, well, then that's it, man. That's our 3 questions.
Yes.
Thank you again. Like seriously, thank you so much for joining me again.
Thank you, man. I'm so happy to be here again. Thank you, and so soon.
Yeah,
I feel like
yeah.
it was just so recently that we
It was
just
just
talked
yesterday.
about. Yeah, it really was.
No, it really was. It was September. So, like that's when we
Like
talked
3
about
months ago, 4
Tenebrae.
months ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Thank you again for having me back. Thank you, man. This was fun.
And next time you come back, it'll have to be with Andrew because
Yeah.
I think he was even saying in our last episode that he really wants to like meet you over Zoom or whatever and talk to you.
Yeah,
and
that
stuff.
would be nice.
He loves you.
Yeah,
He,
we'll figure it
he
out.
doesn't know you. He loves you. We both love you.
He will know me, and he will love me.
And everybody out there, please, as I mentioned at the beginning, Stanley has his own YouTube channel. It's called Stanny Boy Reviews. I love the channel.
Oh, that's nice of you.
You pick movies that you want to watch. You don't pick movies that are like the hot item of the month. You pick movies that you want to review. You pick movies that I haven't seen that I want to see. And as I've said before, I love the way you edit your videos. It's
Oh, shucks.
so much fun. So
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
everybody go to his channel, like and subscribe.
Do it.
So
Do it. You'll get
everybody,
a free copy of a used DVD.
there you go.
It'll be fun.
Everybody, thank you for listening. Join us. I think this is Friday the 13th. So Andrew and I will be back 2 Tuesdays from now with our review and discussion of Speak No Evil. But until that time, everybody, we love you. Thank you for listening.
Take care.
Bye, Stanley.
Hey, bye, Scotty. Yeah.
Love you. Bye-bye.
Love you, man.
I don't want to scare anyone, but I'm going to give it to you straight about Jason. His body was never recovered from the lake after he drowned. And if you listen to the old-timers in town, they'll tell you he's still out there. Some sort of demented creature. Surviving in the wilderness. Full grown by now. Stalking. Stealing what he needs, living off wild animals and vegetation. Some folks claim they've even seen him, right in this area. The girl who survived that night at Camp Blood, that Friday the 13th, she claims she saw him. She disappeared 2 months later. Vanished. Blood was everywhere. No one knows what happened to her. Legend has it that Jason saw his mother beheaded that night, and that he took his revenge. A revenge that he'll continue to seek if anyone ever enters his wilderness again. And by now, I guess you all know, we're the first to return here. 5 years. 5 long years he's been dormant. And he's hungry. Jason's out there. Watching. Always on the prowl for intruders. Waiting to kill. Waiting to devour. Thirsty for young blood.